first thing we're going to start out with here is kind of just the HMI and then the applications. So the HMI is the XGT panel. That's the series for the LS HMIs. We do have some stock of this. There's two main series. There's the EXP and the IXP. And then in a few slides, we'll show you guys kind of the key differences between those two. There's kind of like a lower level and a higher level, like a flagship and an entry level. So some of this may be, review or redundant for you guys, but it's kind of meant for everybody. So we're going to start out with the basics. Where would you install an HMI? So, they could pretty much be installed anywhere where you want to control or monitor any device. So, machines, power panels, production lines. So here we have some, different applications, machine control, like a food and beverage plant or boiler control. You could use it as a SCADA system. You could use it for power monitoring or some kind of, switch gear or something perhaps. Water treatment plant would be a good one, just to kind of display and monitor multiple values at the same time. The middle one on the bottom here is a production status display. And then this one actually has a video output, which is something we'll show you later, where we could run multiple monitors off of one HMI. And so here's a little bit about the product lineup. And then also towards the end of this, I'm going to show you guys some references and then also some interesting stuff we're doing here in the US. So right now, this is let's kind of go over this table right here. So they're showing the size. It's a little bit weird because the size starts at 4 inches on the right, then it goes up to 15 inches. So there used to be an EXP, which you guys will probably never see here in the US because it's discontinued late last year in December. So that's the old series of HMI, and that kind of split up into a couple new series. So there used to be the XP and the IXP. So the XP was the standard HMI, so standard meaning kind of like more economical entry-level HMI, which goes from 4.2 inches to 15 inches. And then there was the high-performance one, which was the IXP. Okay, neither of those are readily available in the U.S. What we stock is the newer generation ones, which is the EXP, which is the economical HMI, which goes from 4.2 to 10.2 inches. And then we also have the IXP2, which goes from 8.4 to 15 inches. So that replaces the IXP1. So those are the two flavors, the EXP and then the IXP2. And we do have a slide coming up in the specifications that kind of shows the key differences between the two. Okay. So here's a little bit of the specification comparison. So on the top left right here, we have the EXP series. That's the entry-level one. So if you have like an application that's looking for just kind of like a basic HMI, a basic touch screen, it still has a good amount of features and stuff. But if they're concerned about, cost and they have to be competitive, we'd recommend starting out with the EXP series. So you can kind of see the specs here, just some basic specs is 65,000 colors, with a 30,000 hour LED backlit display. Whereas the IXP2, the price goes up a lot, at least double if I recall correctly. So the IXP2 is a higher cost up front, but there's actually a lot more features. 16 million colors are available to display. It's 24-bit color spectrum with alpha. So we have a slide that shows you later kind of what difference that makes, but a lot better image quality and gradients and things like that with the more colors available to you. And then a more robust backlit, which is good for 50,000 hours. We have another slide that shows you this, but both of these have USB ports on the front for ease of programming. So looking at the back of these guys, so EXP is on the left, IXP is on the bottom right. Both of these are going to have batteries built in. It's just like a little CR2032, one of those like quarter batteries, which you could use for, battery backup and saving the real-time clock and things like that. These are all going to have a USB port in the back as well, where you can load a program from. And then this is also where you're going to have your communication ports. So looking at the EXP first, what we stock is the one that has a single Ethernet channel. So there's just one Ethernet connection on the back. So you could connect to, various Ethernet networks, with Allen Bradley or LS PLCs or anything that's like Ethernet based that we have a driver for. And we'll list off the drivers towards the end of this too, because that's probably the most common question we get about the HMIs is, oh, what driver do you guys have? And there's a pretty long list, so we'll go over that. We have serial communication ports. There's a DB9 port, and then there's just a terminal with screw down connections. So you could, wire up for like a 2-wire or a 4-wire, 485 or, 422. The IXP, one of the key differences from the EXP to the IXP is that it has 2 Ethernet channels. So it's a dual port, so it has a built-in switch. You could run, a line in and a line out, to connect to your network. You still have the same communication port, the DB9 port, and then a terminal strip. The IXP2 has a SD card on it that you could pop in, or a port for an SD card. And then it also has an HDMI port, which we'll show you later. You could connect up like a display, connect up a TV or something for extending the image from the HMI. All right, so this is a nice side-by-side comparison. People sometimes ask, hey, what do I need? Do I need the EXP, or could I get away with the EXP, or do I need to pay, a little bit of a premium for the IXP2? Well, the first thing it depends on is the screen size. If you need more than 10.2 inches, then we'd recommend going with the IXP2, because that one goes up to 15 inches. We already mentioned the color spectrum difference. So 65,000, this actually should be 16 million. I guess we ran out of space there, but you have a lot more colors available on the IXP2. It's a better display. It's got the tempered glass and aluminum frame and stuff. But it all depends on, what you or the customer are looking for their application. Resolution will be a little bit lower, 800 by 480 on the EXP series, where it's more of a full HD 1024 on the IXP2. Memory increases a lot, so this is flash memory, which is available for your project, up to 1 gigabyte flash memory, and then project memory is 128 megabytes. So you can make a much bigger program if you have an application that's going to be pretty complex. You're going to be monitoring a lot of things. There's a lot going on, a lot of screens or whatever. Of course, all that takes up more memory for your project, so you might need to go to an IXP2. More RAM. So we use a DDR2 RAM, which will make the HMI more responsive. And I think we mentioned on another slide that the IXP2 actually has a dual core, 1 gigahertz processor. So overall, it's a faster computer. I mean, these are just computers with built-in touchscreen. So the IXP2 is going to be a better performer. Ethernet channels 1 on the EXP, 2 Ethernet channels on the IXP2. Otherwise, everything else is going to be the same. So serial connector is RS-232. We give you one of those on both of them. 422 is 485. And let's see, question. Previous slide showed you only have IXP2 SP card. This shows both. It's probably a typo, yeah. So only the IXP2 has a spot for the SD card. So that's a good question. This might be saying, yeah, SD card. Yeah, there's no SD card slot on the EXP, so that might be a typo. So let's see, video output. The HDMI port is only on the IXP2. Again, it's not a requirement. Not many times people are using external monitor in addition to the HMI, but if that's something somebody wants, they could use the IXP2. There's also a little 3.5 millimeter jack for sound output, which we'll show you a little bit more about that too. These are also all rated for IP66, so NEMA Type 4X rating. Power, even though they give you all these power options here, 12 volts, 24, 110, 220, the only ones we stock are 24 volt DC. Okay, So all of our stock right now is 24 volt DC. That may change, in the future if people start requesting, different voltages. But right now that's what we're stocking. Okay. Yeah. So this is what I was mentioning is one of the most prevalent questions I get from people, which is supported controllers or drivers, as they're commonly called. So this is, hey, what PLC, what controller, what protocol can I connect up to for our HMI? So the longest list you're going to see here, of course, is our own stuff, LSIS stuff. So these are all of our PLCs, CPU units, Ethernet units. You could connect directly to the inverters. I have a project that I could show you guys that connects up the HMI directly to our drives. So the longest list is LSIS. And then you're going to find stuff like Koyo, for their DirectNet PLCs, or PLCs that communicate DirectNet, Mitsubishi, Omron, Panasonic. Let's see what else we got here. So the most common question, and I think you guys could probably agree, is Rockwell is the number one request that we get. Hey, can we communicate Rockwell? Yes, we can. Right here we have the list for compact and control logics over Ethernet, micro logics over Ethernet, even the older SLC series, compact logics, DF1, all the DF1 protocols. So that's all there. We can also do Schneider, since they're the guys that claim Modbus. We could communicate to any Modbus device pretty much. So this is kind of like a generic driver when we use Schneider. Let's see, we got GE, we have a BACnet IP, good for the HVAC guys, Hitachi. So, I mean, even if you guys have a customer that's not 100% on board with LS drives and stuff like that, if this might be an opportunity where you could get in there with LS HMI at least, as long as the driver is something that we have that will support with them. So let's see, a couple of questions here. I guess we'll answer them as we go. Is this list available to be shared with us? Yes. So this list is actually right out of the catalog. Okay. So let me just bring up the catalog here. All right, so this is also on our website too, but I'm just going to show you. I just downloaded it, of course, on my computer. So here is the catalog. All right, so hopefully you guys can see this catalog. And I think drivers are towards the back, so here's IXP2, here's EXP. There's nice comparisons in here of what's available and stuff. Very similar to what we're talking about in these slides right now. We got to go to the back. Let's go to slide 40. 40. Yeah, here's the list of communication drivers is what they call it here. So, yeah, so you guys could always, find this list or find this catalog, and it'd be something good to have. And then also we're going to post this video online, and I can also share the slides. I think most of you guys have my email. I'll put it up at the end, so you guys could always email me if you want a copy of these slides or whatever. If you want to use them as like a sales tool or whatever. All right. So let's see, is the NEMA 4X the default rating on the IXP2? Yes. Yeah, so there's no options like I want this rating or I want that rating. It's pretty much going to be all IP66 NEMA 4X out of the box. So that's a good question. They all have the same ratings. All right, here's one more. So this shows some Siemens stuff, F7, logo Ethernet. You have the, let's see, back off. Yaskawa, if any of you guys deal with them. So it's a little bit of everything, and this list is expanding usually too. So if there's anything that's not on here, it might be on here in the near future. So now we're going to switch over to talking primarily about the IXP2 series, mainly because there's more to talk about for the IXP2 series. Again, the EXP is like the entry-level one. I think the E is like for the more economical entry level is what the E stands for. Whereas the IXP2 is like a level up. Cost goes up, but features and things like that change. So here's the IXP2, called 2 because it's the second generation one, and the I on this one is intelligent, so it's a higher level product. This one features like an all aluminum frame, so that's where they say aluminum body. It has a tempered glass screen, whereas the EXP has a plastic like bezel and frame, and it has like a plastic touch screen, so it's a little bit different. Supports USB 2.0, which is the same as the EXP. You could also run a host device, which would be like a USB memory stick. You could connect a mouse or a keyboard to this. So this is, again, this is just a computer. It's running Windows software with the a little bit customized for the LS HMI. In the back, that's that battery access there. There's also some dip switches for enabling and disabling various functions. And then there's the SD card support. So these are kind of things we already mentioned here. We're just kind of looking at it again. One thing to mention too is this is a UL and a CUL listed product. So that's one of the common things we get asked too. Usually we, as you guys probably know, we try to avoid selling things in the US or stocking things in the US unless it's UL, because that could cause grief when we don't have ULs. So, all right. So here's a little bit about some of the software features, and a lot of these software features are only for the IXP2, so the higher level HMI. So we could do the dual screen functions and do all the models have touchscreen? Yes, all of the models, yeah, the EXPs and the IXPs, whether it's like a 4-inch or a 15-inch, they all are touchscreen. So that never changes. So the key things that change were back on like 5 slides ago, which is like the memory and then some of the outputs. That's the main thing that changes. But if you just need like a basic touchscreen, you could go with like an EXP. So we have the dual screen function, connecting up HDMI, gestures, which we have a slide on. So that's kind of what you would expect an HMI to do now, where you could scroll up and down instead of hitting a button every time, which is a little bit more archaic. So we do support gestures, which is nice. You could connect from a PC to a PLC over Ethernet. We have the dual port, so we could have separate IP addresses for each port and gateways and all that good stuff. Let's see, we already mentioned the tempered glass display, the USB host, that's for connecting your mouse or keyboard if you'd like. There's some other stuff you could do with that as well, which we'll mention in a slide or two. This guy has the 1 gigahertz dual core CPU, high resolution. So this little arrow here is showing the EXP compared to the IXP2. So we go to a full HD display, 1024 by 768. Then we could also support the vertical mounting display. So you could flip your display from horizontal and vertical, and then you could set it up to display like that if you want like a little bit more of a longer display up and down. So that's something you could do. It's a capacitive touchscreen, and then you could also adjust the sensitivity. So if you're in an environment for like some like manufacturing plant where people are wearing gloves, you could change the sensitivity for gloves. So when people are wearing gloves, the screen will be able to respond properly versus bare hands. So that's something that's adjustable. The 24-bit true color, we have a slide on that. And then certificates, IP66 rated, NEMA Type 4. Marine certificate, explosion certificate, so a little bit of everything there. So yeah, the dual core CPU is going to give you a lot better processing time. So if you have a lot of screens, it's going to be a little bit more responsive. It'll help with your communications too, just because of the more memory, higher RAM. I think this guy has, was it 1 megabyte for memory and alarming. So that's a function we could utilize. Then we have a lot more memory for the screens and images. So if you're going to have something with a lot of screens or pages that you're going to scroll between, you'd want to probably go with an IXP. If you're doing something more basic, I think the EXP would be fine. There is a slide that comes up on the explosion certificate. So I'll hang tight for a minute and we'll have that pop up for whoever asked that question. Yeah, so compared to the previous generation, this is like a 4 times faster overall system that we're running with the IXP2. Okay. All right, so here's a little bit more about the color that I've been alluding to. Is we support the 24-bit color, so 16 million different colors with the 8-bit alpha channel. I honestly didn't know what that meant until I started looking it up. But it kind of smooths everything out. So you can see that on the left is 16-bit, on the right is 24-bit. So it makes the gradients a little bit smoother. They're not as like pixelated. So you can make graphics that look a lot nicer, essentially, with the 8-bit channels and the larger color spectrum on there. That's the purpose of that. Then you could also run the dual monitor mode. Very simple. HDMI, no proprietary cable or any adapters or anything like that. Just a straight up HDMI cable from your HMI to the, like a monitor or TV or anything like that. So that HDMI is only on the IXP2. So just be aware of that. Okay. So we do have multiple interfaces that we could use for connecting to various things on the IoT or the Internet of Things. So we have the dual channel Ethernet. We have a single channel on the EXP. So you could always use an external switch if you'd like on the EXP if you have to connect multiple devices. We have the HDMI port we mentioned. We have the audio output. We have the multiple USB ports for different devices. And then we could also run a video as well. So you could set up a video to come up on the display, for like maybe some training purposes or demoing purposes or explanation for whatever. IP66 aluminum frame on the IXP2. And then we also have the multi-touch settings where you could prevent accidental touches pretty much. So if you have an operation where people could accidentally start up a machine, you can make it where a switch needs multiple touches. So you got to press 2 fingers on 2 certain points at the same time, and that'll start like some kind of critical operation. And then again, you could adjust the touch sensitivity for bare hands or with gloves. Here's a little bit about the gestures. So it used to be that you would have to have like a button that would scroll up or scroll down, and you'd have to program that button to do, the scrolling. But now we support gestures for things like monitoring and trending and stuff like that. So if you want to display a graph and you want to slide from left to right, all you do is swipe. So just like you're on a phone, a lot of people are used to touch screens on their phone or maybe even in their car now with like an infotainment system. They want to just slide things around and have something happen. So we support that as well. All right, let's see. Let me look at some of these questions. Let's see. Large, less razor. All right. Yeah. So some of these questions are going to be answered at the end of class. So I'll leave them. We can't jump ahead of my slides too much. And then some of these are long as well. So let's see. Okay. All right. Yeah. So we'll get back to those questions towards the end. I was just seeing if there's anything easy we could answer, but we could discuss those at the end. Yeah, so this is just kind of showing how that you could interface to different devices. So you have your HMI, which is what we're talking about, right? You could have your Ethernet go to PLC. I think we're showing you like maybe LS PLCs here, but let's say you're going to a Rockwell, PLC, which we communicate to. You could have this go into like some kind of ERP or ADP or SAP system for like device monitoring and management of products or trending or something like that. They're showing like a USB barcode scanner here, which could be taking in data into the HMI and displaying it. And different inverters which are communicating 485. So you could communicate multiple things at once as well. You could have different protocols running at the same time because we have different ports on the back, right? We have multiple USB ports, or not USB. We have multiple Ethernet ports. We have multiple 485 ports and 232 ports. So you should be able to connect up to mostly anything you need. The key would be checking that driver's list, okay? So some other things we could do is we could support MP3 and WAV files. So you could have a audio output. This works for like if you have a video loaded on the IXP, or if you want like, as this example showing here, the PLC trips on an alarm, that sends it to the HMI. Maybe an alarm pops up on the IXP2, and then that shoots out to a speaker that says, hey, an error occurred, or system fault, or something like that. So it's totally customizable. Here's the explosion proof and other standards that we meet. So these are the gas and the dust ratings right here, which I think somebody was asking about. So hopefully that answers your question, which I think is what somebody mentioned. Let's see. Explosion proof, C1, D1. I don't know if this is the same one. I might need to check. But yeah, this is at least what we list, for our gas ratings and our dust ratings. Okay. All right, so here's another specifications table focusing only on the IXP2 series. So there's 4 different sizes. There's 8.4, 10.4, 12.1, and 15. So if you look at like the model number, it's 0800 would be, an 8-inch. 1000 is a 10-inch. 1200 is 12. 1500 is 15-inch. A lot of this we already talked about, how many colors we could display. The resolution is slightly less on the 8-inch display, which you probably wouldn't notice because it's an 8-inch display. And then a lot more about the technical details here. A lot of this I think we already talked about, so we probably don't need to review it again. Yeah, for the rated voltages, remember right now we're only stocking the 24 volt DC 1. Okay. All right. So just a little bit about the ease of access. Ways you can connect on the front of these. If you were to pop open this little door here, you're going to have a full, I think they call it like a USB type A port where you could plug in like a flash stick. And then you also have a mini USB port, which you could connect to your computer. So if you're going to do any programming, I'd recommend using like a mini USB port. It's the most fail safe, You could also program over Ethernet. Or you could use like a Modbus connection or a 232 with like a serial adapter and stuff. So there's multiple ways to program these. So just keep that in mind. I guess it depends on whatever you're used to or whatever you find easiest. Okay, so we kind of already mentioned this front port, so you can kind of see a little bit better. There's a full-on USB port. There's a mini USB on there. And then what you could do with this front USB port is you could change the XP runtime, which is like our own operating system on top of this Windows software without, opening up any control panels or, going to the back of the HMI. You could also use Ethernet, for transferring projects or, doing anything like logging, alarming, or transferring recipe data. That'd probably be best suited for Ethernet because that's just, overall a faster communication method versus serial. Another thing you could do is you could take a USB stick with like a program loaded on it and you could dump it into multiple drives. So you could just plug that into a display, dump it into the drive, and then you're good to go. So you're copying each panel's setup from one to another. We could also update the operating system for different drawing files for your HMI program into the HMI. Okay. So this is a common question we get, and I think you guys will find this useful as well, is kind of us compared to some of the competition. It doesn't cover everybody, but it covers, some of the competitors. So we're comparing ourselves to Proface and Mitsubishi. So you can see some of the things are the same. We all use TFT color displays. Here we're showing 12-inch HMIs comparison here. We have the highest resolution compared to the competition. We also have the most colors. So we have that 16 million color display. Capacitive touch, whereas everybody else is using analog, so they're using slightly older technology. So capacitive touch is what all the smartphones use now. So that's kind of the latest trend for HMIs as well. We could do gestures, whereas the other guys cannot. So I'll just pick out some of the things we have advantages of. So we have a 1 gigabyte or 1 gigabit Ethernet port, whereas ProFace has that, but Mitsubishi does not. We have a higher memory capacity. We have 3 USB ports on there, whereas Mitsubishi only has 2. And then, we have more memory than Mitsubishi or RAM for processing, but ProFace has a little more than us. So this is just a comparison. We're not going to read through all of it. You guys can kind of see a little bit of the difference. So one thing to note that's the difference is that you'll see these guys have IP66F. So F means oil resistance. We don't have an oil resistance ratings on the IXP2s yet. So just keep that in mind. There might be something in the future, but not yet. Some other features, and another common question is, okay, can we access this HMI remotely? Yes, we can. We do have a XP remote viewer. So there's a software you could download, and then you could check out what's going on the HMI. You could monitor and control the panel as long as it's connected to Ethernet and you set it up to connect to the internet. Okay, and then you could also set it up on a phone. There's a app called VNC app, and you could view your HMI. You could click buttons and do things like that as well on a phone. So you could run a maximum of 4 devices on there. I think my screen just cut out. Hopefully it came back. So we could run a maximum of 4 devices at one time. So you could have a phone and a couple computers or whatever connected, and there should be no issue. And then you could also, there's a level of security on this where you could grant access for people to get on there. So that means that not anybody could just get on there and start messing with your system. So you do have to give them access. All right, and then we also have a web server. So the web server is nice because you don't need to install any software on your computer or whatever. You only need to set up a driver, excuse me, on the XGT panel. So on your HMI, you set up the web server driver. And then once you connect it to the computer, you could pop in the IP address. You have like a credentials that you could get into the HMI. And then you could access the HMI. So you can access multiple HMIs, as long as you have the IP address and the credentials to get in there. And then there's also, multiple functions. You could do device monitoring. You could do your control. You could upload different files from the XGT panel, like CSV files for trending and stuff like that. And then also we have the XP simulator, which is something I'll show you guys shortly. I'll load up the files or the software and show you kind of how you connect this up and do various things. So this supports like simulations on the PC, so you could like test out your HMI without dumping the program into the HMI. And this is also really nice because if you're going to be connecting this to a PLC, sometimes it's a pain to be constantly updating stuff in the PLC and, re-downloading it and checking for errors and stuff. So you could make a simulated PLC program, okay? And then if you're using all LS stuff, so if you're using an LS PLC, which some of you may be dabbling in now, we have an XGT simulator that uses the XG5000 software for the LS PLCs, and you could run a simulated LS PLC program, so you could have a whole system running virtually on your computer. So that's a nice kind of feature as well. Okay. So here we're just kind of showing how you could do different alarm displays. So you could have like alarms come up, servo error, LS error, device net error, communication error, whatever. This is on a view, a long list right here. You could send this to an address, and then you could have this address go into not a trending, but like a data file, essentially for saving all the alarms. And then with the IXP2, this is only on the IXP2, is you could have a PDF saved into the HMI. So you could click like this button here, which says like PDF view, and then it'll pop up with like a manual or like a quick start or some kind of troubleshooting document maybe. So, stuff to make it easier for the end user that's operating this HMI. All right, so here's just like some references. So you'll notice that these are not around here. It's Mexico, India, and then, Korea and stuff, and China. So this is what I was shared with from our HMI manager overseas. So just some larger projects they've done, with some car manufacturers, Kia and Hyundai. And let me show you guys some things we're working on here. So thanks to Mr. Mark Bandon for sending over these pictures. These are a few projects we've been working on past few months or so, maybe longer. But this is EXP. So this is the entry-level monitor, and I think we're still running 5 screens, no problem. A lot of monitors, a lot of displays and controls and stuff. We had 3 EXP HMIs. Those are all connected to like about 15 or so VFDs. We were running Modbus RTU, and I think we're going to change it over to Ethernet because it was kind of slow with the Modbus RTU. But it's set up for control and monitoring of different dryer fans and cooling systems and heaters at a farm on like a drying system. So the nice thing, or I guess the cool thing about it, is it's all LS. So you can see all LS S100s here, larger IS7 drive, HMIs that are LS, and then in these power panels it's all LS contactors, manual motor starters and stuff. This is a project that we've been working on. Again, thank you to Mark for sending over these pictures. There's another project we were working on, is HMI data logger. This one's using the IXP2 HMI, and he's also using an LS PLC. And this one we're using it to control high-frequency power supplies and DC power supplies. We're doing real-time data logging. Automatic log files were being backed up, I think, onto like a USB. We had some graphing screens. If you can see here, there's all kinds of things being recorded on the HMI. And then I think we also had email notifications set up on this one. So that's something you could do as well. We didn't talk about here, but you could do email notifications. Some other things in progress is out east is we're doing a Siemens retrofit for their HMI to ours, working on that. Car wash controller and an aggregate controller was something else we were working on as well. So, I mean, there's lots of applications we could do. So I'm going to show you guys a software demo. Let me first check the questions. It looks like there's quite a few. I guess I'll start with the most recent. So was the slow? So it was slow because we were running multiple HMIs and drives all on Modbus RTU, and it doesn't have enough bandwidth pretty much to support all those devices. So the plan is to switch everything over to Ethernet, and it should be a lot faster. When you're using multiple HMIs on RTU, you need to set up like a master-slave token pass network, and it slows things down a little bit. So if you want like a fast response, we recommend going to Ethernet. Can you access VFD parameters over Modbus? Yes. I'll show you guys my program here in a second. And then you'll see that, we could run multiple drives and communicate all the parameters without issue. Let's see. All right, so I'll come back to some of these questions because there's quite a lot. We'll save them for the end. So let me show you guys my little software demo here. So first off, let's see, I think I got to escape out of this. Here we go. So the program you use is called XP Builder. So one of the nice things, if you may or may not know about LS, is we don't charge anything for our software, so it's always available at no charge. You can download it off of our website under the download section. Just go to downloads, click software, and then it'll be like the first or second thing to pop up. So this XP Builder software, there's no licensing required. It's free, which tends to be the opposite of some of the other big companies over here. So this is an existing program. It's a project-based software. So I opened up a project, and I'm just going to go on the bottom left right here is all my screens. Hopefully the resolution is showing up okay. over the web. But if I click this first screen, which is in bold, that's my base screen. So this is explaining what it is. This is a sample program that demonstrates how an LS IS-HMI can read and write data over Modbus RTU. So one of you guys asked a question is, hey, can we communicate directly to a drive and read and write parameters? That's exactly what this program does. And you could use either an EXP or an IXP HMI for this program. This is a sample program I made for some of you guys that are sales guys, or some of you guys that are, you know, distributors and you want to show off the product. So I could email you guys this, and all you do is you dump it into the HMI. You connect 2 wires from the HMI to the drive, set up these 4 parameters, and then you're good to go. Okay. So this is the first screen. This shows how you set it up. This is the second screen. So it's a run button and a stop button that starts and stops this G100 that you would have connected. We're also monitoring all the frequencies, voltages, DC bus, all that good stuff. So, for example, let's just double click this button here. We could see that we're writing this to address 1. So this is address 1 on our Modbus network, and it's sending it to hexadecimal address number 6. So number 6 is your start command or your control mode. And we're sending it a value of a 2, because a value of a 2 is a forward run. And then if we want to stop it, we're sending a 3. A 3 is a stop. So you would find out these values by using the drives manual, and then also in combination with the drives manual, you could click help, and you could do PLC controller manual. And right now we have this set up for an LS inverter, so it comes up with like a 10-page manual for the controller you're connected to. Here's your wiring. You know, here's some detailed settings on how you would do things. So it makes it pretty easy to find stuff. And then let me click the last page here. So here's a direct answer to your question is, can we read and write parameters? Yes, we can. So this is actually showing parameter for the cooling fan is AD64. You could click 0, 1, or 2. You could turn the fan on, off, or only on during temperature control. So you could click this, and then you could see, oh, this is actually taking a word, and it's writing a number to this word set, which is an address. So, all right, so let me show you guys. If you click this simulation right here, you're not going to see this do too much because there's no PLC program, but you could see, let's see, maybe I'll make this a little bigger. You can kind of see that you could click your next screen, your previous screen. These are all things that I mapped out beforehand, and this project is already completed. You could turn the fan off and on, and if I was connected to a drive right now, and my HMI was all set up, I could turn the fan off and on, okay? So just something that somebody could see, you know, and hear. They hear the fan starting and stopping. You'd be able to hit your run button here. You would see your output voltage go up and down. So that's a little virtual analog meter on there. We have some faults and some statuses for stopping and running. We're not going to dive too far into this program, but again, this is something I could send out to you guys. If you want it, just shoot me an email, and then I could send it over and we could always discuss it. Okay? So, all right. So this was a question that popped up. Let me make sure I read that question right. There's a lot of questions. Let's see. All right, so let's see. Experience says this is a hard sale, especially for large repeat opportunities unless programming and support is in many cases. Conversion is available. What kind of technical support are we offering? All right, so this is a good question. So right now, support, you know, we don't have enough manpower to be converting programs over for you guys, but we're here to help as much as possible. So I guess first off, I'd recommend utilizing the same support channels that you've been using, hopefully for our other products, whether it's electrical products or VFDs or what have you. You could always give us a call at the 800 number. For HMIs and stuff, it's better to email us. So we have our tech support email, because you could always email us programs and we could check it out and stuff. So as I mentioned, you know, we can't help you like design a program like the one I showed you, but we could send you like, hey, here's a sample program, you know, you're free to take it, reverse engineer it, and, you know, do whatever you want with it. But we also want to kind of extend out as much help as we can. So if you need help kind of converting a program over, or let's say you have, I don't know, some Rockwell, panel view HMI where, hey, they do this specific function. Can we do that on your HMI? We could definitely help you out with that and make sure that we're capable of doing everything, they're doing. Okay. Yeah, so we're here to help. Yeah, we were trained on the HMI, which is probably already a year ago. So we've gradually, increased our knowledge with the more questions and calls and emails we get about it. So I think we're pretty good at supporting it. There's not too many unknowns anymore, but I'll probably jinx it by saying that. And also, as far as support, everything is on the website. So there's all the software, that XP Builder software is on the website. The catalogs are on the website. There's manuals on the website, so you guys can download that whenever you'd like. We're currently stocking the EXP40 and 60, and so that's like the smaller one. And I think we also have maybe some 4.3s on there as well. And then we're stocking the IXP2s, the 800, the 8-inch, 10-inch, and the 15-inch. And then we also, in the office, well, at home right now, I have a couple too. We have an EXP and an IXP demo unit set up, so we can always help you guys out if you have any issues. One of the most common questions we get is, hey, how do I connect up to, the software or whatever, USB, Ethernet, whatever. So there's once you get that initial setup working, then you're usually good to go. Okay. So let's do this. All right, so I'm going to answer some of you guys' questions, and I want to talk about something else here real quick. Let's see. So I answered that technical support question, so we're here to help you guys. All models are touchscreen, yep. So all the parent focus supports from each one. Yes, that's something good to mention. If you guys are checking the chat, is something that Andy said, our sales manager, is that we're not. I mean, there's some guys that are doing like these onesie twosie applications. I mean, that's fine, but what we're really aiming at with these HMIs is to get some repeat business. Is we're chasing a lot of like larger OEMs. So if you have an OEM that does 100 HMIs and they're always the same program, well, that's kind of what we're going for, because the support will be easier. Of course, the sales volume is better too. The onesie twosie stuff, I mean, you can do it if you want. We can't say no, but it's not exactly what we're chasing right now. Let's see. Yeah, and single HMI and multiple drives is no problem. Yeah, it just slows down when you're using Modbus. Andy says we could say no. All right. So I think I answered most of the HMI questions. All right. And feel free to send more if you think of them. But before we finish here, I just wanted to show you something else one of our reps was asking about. Let's see. I can remember where I put this. Here we go. Here's the manual. I'm going to show you guys our H100 Disconnect parts. All right, so here's the flyer, also available on our website. Let me zoom out a tiny bit so you guys can see what it actually is. So this is the H100 Disconnect switch option. So this is offered up to 25 horsepower for 200 volt, and then for the 400 volt class, it's up to 125 horsepower. So this is primarily, for the HVAC guys that are going to be using the H100. A lot of times they'll have to have like a built-in disconnect or a disconnect, within the line of sight, because that's what the spec says, or the code, local code. So the benefit of using this is it's, going to be compact, it's inexpensive, it's a factory design solution. So this just bolts on to the bottom. So I'll show you a manual in a second. Very easy to install. It's going to, take 5 minutes or less. It's all LS stuff. So this one has an LS MMS on there, a manual motor starter. And then once you hit the larger sizes, there's a built-in circuit breaker. And so let's see. So this is meets UL C. It's a UL Type 1 type rating. And then the key thing here, which I think most of you guys would care about if you get with the HVAC stuff, is the short circuit current rating is 100K. Okay, so that's a common spec in, you know, HVAC specs is, oh, we need 100K, we need 100K. Okay, well, if you look right here, we use MMSs up to 25 horsepower for the 230 volt ones. That gives us 100K because we have combination ratings for our drive with the MMS. And then for the 480 volt ones, for the higher voltage, we're using UTS 150 and 250 frame circuit breakers. Okay, and that gives us 100K as well. So here's the dimensions. Here's kind of how it looks. Yeah, easy to wire, easy to install. Yeah, you could use a conduit on it. And so the main benefit of this is it's just a disconnect that kind of gets mounted onto the bottom of the H100. So I see a question here that says, what's the difference between a bypass? Well, the main answer for that would be this is not a bypass, it's just a disconnect. So there's no bypass functionality in here, there's no contactors or anything like that. Let me just bring up, this is the manual that shows how you install it. This switch, the actual handle here, has a little lock on it, or well, you could purchase a lock and pop it on there for lockout, tagout. Block diagram. Here's all the specs. Let's see, I think there's something that shows the installation. Maybe that's on the second page. Oh yeah, here it is. Cal, you just remove these two grounding screws, and then you just put in those grounding screws back through the enclosure, and then it mounts to the top part by the grounding screws, and then the bottom part goes into the slots that go on the wall. And then it comes with a little pigtail, 3 wires for your 3-phase that goes right from the top of the circuit breaker or MMS into the input of the drive. So you don't need anything extra, you just kind of pop it on there. Really easy. It's pretty cost-effective solution. We have these in stock, and they should be on the latest price sheet that you guys have. If you don't have the latest price sheet that reflects that, you know, let us know, let your local regional guy know, and they'll send it to you. But yeah, this is a nice option, you know, from the factory. So it's yeah, low cost, and it gets the job done and makes sure you meet the spec. Okay. So that's all I wanted to mention about the disconnect switch. So let me just check. I'm going to put these slides back on there. Let me see if there's any more questions. So if you have them, ask them now, because it's about 11 o'clock, and that's all I had to present at least. Let's see. Yeah, we'll check out that C1D1 explosion certificate. I'll look for that, and we could share that with you guys. Anything like that we could list on the website too, once I get a hold of it. Yeah, UL approval document. I think I have that, so I can share that with you as well. And I'll make sure I save these questions just in case anybody needs them. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, one of the main key points of that disconnect box is it's inexpensive and it's easy to install. It's just a couple screws. Does pairing the HMI with an LS drive make the programming any easier? What are the benefits of pairing this with an LS drive? So there's it'll be easier because it'll be easier for like John or I to support it because we know more about HMI, of course, than the other manufacturers. But you could communicate the HMI directly with any other drive as long as they're using like a Modbus RTU. So you could just use you could use the generic Schneider Modbus RTU protocol, and then it'll connect up. So. Is there room in the disconnect box to put a line reactor? I'm going to say no. It's not designed to fit anything else in there. So I wouldn't, there might be room, but I wouldn't recommend it. Let's see. Yes, we do have access to the parameters. All right, all register location values are predefined within the HMI. What protocols? Modbus. So, all right, so let me try to see if I can answer that one about the protocols and stuff. So here's, so if I go to my project here, my project summary, I could click panel settings. And right now, my controller, I only have one controller set up. So this is my driver. I have my one controller, which is my 485 port, set up for Modbus, okay? And then I could click the manual here, and then it pops up with everything for Modbus. But since I'm connecting to an LS drive, I would want to look at my Modbus table, which is something like this. So these are all the registers for Modbus for an LS drive, okay? So I mentioned like register 6, right? So register 6 is for your operation command, okay? So if I just close this temporarily, I hit my run button, this is set for register 6, okay? So that's how the registers work. But let's say I'm using, I don't know, brand X VFD. I would probably go in there and I would change this a little bit. I wouldn't use the LS controller. I would go and probably use the generic Schneider Electric Modbus Master RTU. You could hit the details. You could change your baud rate, your data bits, your parity, your stop bits, blah, blah, blah. You could change that. Right now it's going to change my whole project and try to map it all. And then I would go here and let's say they use an address, I don't know, 100. You'd change it to 100 here, okay? So the addressing is going to change based on whatever device you're connecting to. And also if you're doing Ethernet, it changes a little bit too. And then also, let's see, you could also click this little calculator button and you could select your controller. So you could do internal memory for internally mapping stuff. So you could have internal registers on the HMI, of course. They could save or do different things. For those of you guys that are hanging out, it's pretty easy to like change stuff on here. I mean, this is a pre-written program, but let's just say I have a bit switch. I drag it onto the screen. Then I address it. So let's just click an internal memory spot. Internal, let's do address 1. Okay. Oops. I think I got to change it to, there we go. You could change it to an action from an on switch, an off switch, a momentary switch, or an alternative switch. You could do a lamp condition where the lamp turns on and off. What do you want to happen? There's all kinds of rules here. There's like a training manual I could send you guys as well. I know. So you could use a caption here. It could say on switch. Okay, and then when you turn this on, it will say on switch. Okay, so we could actually, let's see, let's copy that. Okay, yeah, so maybe we could have another training that shows more detailed about the program, or make like a training video, or something like that, because that's a lot, more in depth. All right, so I'm going to look at a few more questions here, then we'll call it quits. Let's see. Yeah, so some of you guys I owe answers for on certifications and stuff. Can you download program without power? I'm assuming that's a question for the HMI. No, you need to be powered on, so 24-volt power supply. You could download the program with a USB stick, or you could download it, connected to the software, the XP Builder. Okay, let's see. Meaning all the registration. Okay, so could a UL integrator swap out the MMS with a fused disconnect and maintain UL rating? You should be able to, but you'd probably want to use like a fuse disconnect that is tested with ours. So we're tested with Socomec or whatever for disconnects. So you might want to use like something that's listed. So, all right. So I think that was all the questions I saw. So if there's any other questions, feel free to message us. It's right here. You can see, our tech support email, or if you have my email, you could email me directly. You could give us a call. Thank you guys for, coming in and listening and stuff. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot us a message. So thank you, everybody.